As you could hear there, perhaps you could hear, they were confirming the internal bleeding to the chest area that Princess Diana suffered after the car accident in which Dodi Al Fayed died, and she suffered a cardiac arrest and was confirmed dead by the hospital at 6 a.m. local time, 5 a.m. British time. Just let me pull all that together for you. We actually have some latest information here. A quote from the Prime Minister Tony Blair, who was woken to be told of the appalling news. He says, "I'm utterly devastated. The whole of our country, all of us, will be in a state of shock and mourning. Diana was a wonderful, warm and compassionate person who people, not just in Britain, but throughout the world, loved and will be mourned as a friend." Mr. Blair had been up and in touch with developments since he was told of the car crash early this morning. First reports of the car crash came through at about 1:30 this morning. The Prime Minister added, "Our thoughts and prayers are with her family, particularly with her two sons, and with all the families bereaved in this quite appalling tragedy." So let's pull that together. A reminder again of this morning's shocking news that Diana, the Princess of Wales, has died. A few moments ago, doctors at the hospital in Paris said she'd gone into cardiac arrest a few hours after a car crash in Paris. The Foreign Secretary, Robin Cook, confirmed her death. Ian Glover-James has been watching the tragic events unfold.
The crumpled wreckage of the blue Mercedes in which the Princess and Dodi Al Fayed were travelling. It crashed at high speed just after midnight in a tunnel alongside the River Seine in central Paris. All four in the Mercedes were trapped in the wreckage, but first reports said the Princess walked out. Dodi Al Fayed and a chauffeur were killed at the scene. It was late, but the French capital was still thronging with nightlife, and crowds were quickly drawn to the scene. Many spoke of hearing screeching tyres and described what appeared to be a chase involving motorcycles and paparazzi photographers. It ended in a high-impact crash in which the Mercedes struck the huge stone walls of the Pont de l'Alma Bridge tunnel, which sweeps fast-moving traffic below street level in the French capital. Police moved in to remove the wreckage and piece together exactly what happened. Many questions will now be asked about the Princess's security and the role of intrusive press photographers who pursue her every move. The Princess was in Paris at the end of a brief holiday with Dodi Al Fayed, the Harrods heir. She was escaping from the latest round of controversy, a French newspaper interview in which she blamed press tactics for the pressures in her life and said she would have moved abroad years ago were it not for her two sons. A crashed motorcycle was removed from the scene by police, and the French authorities said they had detained 5 riders for questioning. Earlier, American television interviewed eyewitnesses in Paris.
Well, basically, we were coming through the tunnel going away from the Eiffel Tower, and what we saw was an automobile facing the same way we were going, but on the other side of the tunnel, up against the wall, and a person who looked like they were seriously injured. They're on the passenger side because the bag had been deployed, and it was a Mercedes-Benz that we saw there. At the point in time, we didn't know who it was, but it looked like it was a very serious accident, and debris was all through the tunnel. Matter of fact, was it the bumper that was on our side that had been, the bumper of the Mercedes had come over on this side of it, and there was we had probably just got there a few minutes or seconds right after the accident occurred, and we just happened to go by, and then we stopped, and our driver stopped, and matter of fact, we saw the person sitting in the seat with his face down on the bear bag, and then we decided to go, and then Michael happened to be out there. He was here with me, was taking a couple pictures as we went by.
The Princess was taken to this hospital in southeast Paris. Initial reports of her injuries were confused. She was visited by the British ambassador, Sir Michael Jay. Earlier, Buckingham Palace issued a statement saying the Prince of Wales, who's on holiday in Balmoral, had been informed of what the palace called an awful accident. Later, it was reported the Prince had taken a call at Balmoral from Paris. His sons, Prince William and Harry, are understood to be in London. Ian Glover-James, ITN.
We have a statement now from the British ambassador in Paris.
With her family and her friends, and with the family and friends of the others who died in the accident. The Queen and the Prince of Wales and the Prime Minister have been informed of the accident and of the death of the Princess of Wales. I should like to take this opportunity to thank the Minister and the French authorities and the medical team here at this hospital for all they have done tonight at the time of this terrible tragedy. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Ambassadeur. Bien. Merci, Mesdames, Messieurs.
That was a live statement from the British ambassador in Paris confirming that Diana, the Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident which also claimed the life of Dodi Fayed. Let's cross now to Tim Wilcox for the latest from the ITN newsroom.
Dodi Fayed's father, Mohammed Al Fayed, the owner of Harrods, has just issued this statement. He said the deaths were appalling and quite needless. He added that the world has lost a princess who is simply irreplaceable. No.
Thanks very much indeed. Well, let's cross now to Tim Ewart, who's outside Buckingham Palace. Tim, clearly the early morning there, but any reaction?
Not yet, Dermot. It's still dark here at Buckingham Palace. A single light is burning in one of the upstairs windows. The royal family aren't here. But that scene is, of course, going to change very dramatically as the day goes on. Already, television crews, journalists, photographers are beginning to assemble here. It is, of course, the focal point. And I'm quite sure that as the day goes on, crowds will start to gather as well. When the royal family will return here, we don't know. When we will get a statement from them, we're not able to say. At the moment, Buckingham Palace remains dark and silent.
OK, Tim, thank you very much indeed. Just a reminder again of this morning's terrible news that Diana, the Princess of Wales, has died. She suffered heavy internal bleeding in her chest following a car crash in Paris. Buckingham Palace said the Queen and the Prince of Wales were deeply shocked and distressed by this terrible news. The Princes William and Harry were informed of their mother's death by Prince Charles at Balmoral, where they've been holidaying. The Prime Minister, Tony Blair, said, "I'm utterly devastated. The whole of our country, all of us, will be in a state of shock and mourning. Diana was a wonderful, warm and compassionate person who people throughout the world loved. Our thoughts and prayers are with her family, particularly her two sons." That statement from Tony Blair, the Prime Minister. The Princess was taken to the Paris hospital following the car crash in Paris shortly after midnight, which also claimed the life of her friend Dodi Fayed. These are pictures of that car crash, travelling in an S-Class blue Mercedes supplied by the Ritz Hotel, owned of course by Dodi's father, Mohammed Al Fayed. The couple had been returning from a night out at the Ritz when their car hit a tunnel under the River Seine after they'd been pursued by paparazzi on motorbikes. 5 photographers were later detained, along with their motorcycles, by French police. Dodi's father, the Harrods boss, Mohammed Al Fayed, released this statement a few months ago. He said the deaths were appalling and quite needless. He said the world had lost a princess who is simply irreplaceable. We have a statement here from Dr. William Beaver, a spokesman for Lambeth Palace.